Folks, welcome into the Crossing Swords pregame report. I'm your host, Ty B. We have Dwayne here. The Buffalo Sabres are in Washington, D.C. to take on the first place East Division leading Washington Capitals with 60 points. The Sabres in the last place of the division with 27 points. 3-2 shootout loss in that last game there to Boston, but a lot to take from that game, a lot of positives to take from that game, Dwayne.
Yeah, it's. I said this. It was the first reaction video I did in a while, where I was probably the first reaction video I did where I was positive. Probably since the game we lost, where Dylan Cousins got into a fight. This is the first time in a long time where we've seen games where it's not doom and gloom once you start to see them start to struggle. Back then it was, they're going to lose. They're losing this game. It's over. It's not like that right now. They're playing much better in the third period, and the energy's high. They're not giving up on themselves. They're not quitting on plays. They're playing good in the corners. They're playing in all three zones on the ice, playing well. Neutral zone, defensive zone, offensive zone, in front of both knots, below the dots. It's very, very noticeable.
Absolutely. And we had a great quote from head coach Don Granato today. I believe it was basically pointing out how the team was, playing this style of hockey or this playing in this system, but it wasn't allowing for players to get better, to develop their skills, and to grow into more effective NHL players, Dwayne. But we've seen under Granato a lot of these young players being able to take steps forward, and they're paying attention to the little things that will continue to progress their game, Dwayne.
Yeah, and I think that's just I saw, like I said, a quote today from Granato where he kind of shit on Kruger a little bit. He said, you can only play within a system. Expect players. Some players can play within the system so much. You have to be creative. You have to allow your players. You have to try and utilize the best qualities of those players. And he pretty much said you can't always force the players to play within your system. You have to, develop your system around the strengths of your players. And that's what Granato's been doing. And, I think the most noticeable thing is the emergence of Casey Middlestat, which has been wild. I just like most were Josh Allen apologists, I'm going to be a Casey Middlestat apologist. I'm finally glad to see we're seeing some resemblance of a possible top six forward here.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing for me this season. You kind of came into it with a lot of question marks, like how is the top six going to fill out? And then, what can you expect out of Cousins and Middlestat, and like where can they fit in terms of the future plans? But we're sort of figuring that out as we go throughout the season here. And Casey Middlestat has really played his way into those future plans. He's a guy who, went from playing fourth line minutes with this team to being able to play effective minutes. And he's actually led the team in ice time for forwards a few times over this little stretch here, Dwayne. And I think that's huge to see, because that means he's not just playing well offensively. He's doing the little things defensively and in the neutral zone that Granato sees and is appreciating and rewarding him for.
Yes, and obviously it helps that you have important piece players, out of your lineup. Cousins until recently was out for a while. Eichel's out for the season, has been out for a little more than a month now. So it created opportunities for players that maybe weren't getting them before. And Casey Middlestat has taken those opportunities and just ran away with it. And I'm happy. Like, people think I'm so negative purposely just for the sake of being negative. No, like, I'll criticize when criticism is due, and I'll also, give positive criticism is due. And, right now, Casey Middlestat has been consistently the best forward on this hockey team.
Mm-hmm. And that's something we got to start worrying about. Is Casey Middlestat going to take this team to the Stanley Cup? Because if he does, that means the Amherst Alehouse deals will all be gone. And those deals, what are they? Half off pitchers of Labatt Blue Light, Labatt Blue, Coors Light, and Molson throughout any Sabres game until they win that Stanley Cup, plus half off medium pepperoni pizzas as well. Make sure you give them a call, 625-7100 for takeout, or to get yourself a reservation in there. One of the best spots to watch a game, some of the best wings, those Crown Royal Barbecue. I'm absolutely craving those right now, Dwayne. But we got to get back into this matchup here a little bit. I think Vitek Vanacek will be in net again. He's been an absolute wall against the Sabres this year.
Yeah, it's kind of, he's just had his best games against Buffalo, kind of like the way for Philadelphia. Why am I forgetting his name? Brian Elliott has his best games against Buffalo. Yeah, hopefully they can solve that problem, the Vanacek issue. I look forward to watching these games again. And I know we have no chance of playoffs, obviously, but I look forward to watching them and just seeing how much more these young kids can start continuously develop and grow together. And I tweeted it out after last game. They're finally starting to look like a family.
Yep. Yeah. They look like a team. They look like they actually care about each other. And yeah, some of these guys, they're taking some rough shots, some hits that are right there on the fringe from Boston, and it's nice to see them step up for each other. It doesn't matter if you get beat up after, you're still willing to go out there and you're making your intentions known. You don't like what the other team is doing. Yes, Tage Thompson got beat up after he did it, but he still tried to stand up for his team, and that goes a long way in the locker room, Dwayne.
Yeah, it does, man. And remember when we did the watch party with Ray Barnaby, Dixon Ward, and Derek Plant, and Ray said, like, it was never asked. There was never one specific player on the team that we all looked to be a stand up. It was everybody was the guy that would stand up, and nobody was afraid to be criticized. And to see a guy like Tage Thompson, stand up for his teammate there, not a guy you would expect it from. Even with his size, you wouldn't expect it from Tage Thompson.
I think a lot of this in his game and as well as Casey's, a lot of this leadership and things like that they've been learning, I think a lot of that comes from that development that they've had down in Rochester and time to sort of groom themselves and learn how to play in a bigger role that they're sort of projected to play, and not like to get down when you're not scoring or whatever, but to continue to do those little things and to help your teammates and just have a positive mindset going into it, I think is a huge step for them. And I think that's why we're seing such a marked improvement.
Couple clicks for Chris Taylor. I know he's not with the organization anymore, but he definitely had his fingers in that for sure. And now we have Seth Appert, as a head coach. How about Camaros, the new associate GM, and he's also the general manager of Rochester. He's head of scouting. I think was the title head of scouting or head of player development, something along those lines.
Yeah, I forget what.
That's exciting because when's the last time we had somebody take on those roles? It's been a long time, and I'm pretty sure on his resume too, he's been a hockey. He's worked in hockey ops before.
Yeah. He was part of the Carolina Cup winning team
and Pittsburgh.
His hands in that. Yeah. He's been in some very good front offices where it's not just a quick flash in the pan of success, like teams that actually were able to build and sustain that. Yeah, so I think that's a big thing too, because it's not just, hey, how do we get some guys in here? How do we win? How do we get back to the playoffs? It's, hey, how do we get to the playoffs? How do we stay in the playoffs? And how do we bring a Stanley Cup back to Buffalo, Dwayne?
Agreed. And it's again, that's where it starts. You have to start above the players, above even the GM, that level where you have an overseer of everything. And, granted, this guy isn't that, but he has experience in doing that. And when you have an inexperienced general manager like Kevin Adams, who, as you saw maybe in this past deadline, whether you want to, place blame on him or not, I think Kevin Adams definitely learned some lessons from this deadline in regards to what happened with Taylor Hall. One of those lessons was, I'm never going to give a no movement clause to a 1-year contract player ever again, especially if it is in the cards that there's a good chance we might be trading him at the deadline, because you really backed yourself into that corner of not getting the best return. As it was revealed, it looked like there was a better offer on the table from the Islanders and a team out west, which I think was the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, absolutely. And if when you do that to yourself, that just puts yourself in a precarious situation, like you mentioned, Dwayne. Obviously, you can't force him to go anywhere he doesn't want to go because you gave him the ability to do so. And especially on those 1-year deals, when you're just trying to get someone in here on something like that. I mean, it's okay too, because it ends up building your name, your reputation amongst some of the agents and some of the players, that you're going to do right by the player as well. You're not just going to ship them off to Uzbekistan for a washer, a dryer, and a bucket of pucks or something like that. They're going to try to, put them in a good situation to try and go and win a cup, whatever, when we're out of things. So I don't fully hate it, but it sucks that we weren't able to get that first round pick. Weren't able to get a little bit more. I know even talking to Boston, they were talking about some of those young goalies that Boston has. And I think that would have been nice to bring one of those guys in just in case, because of UPL having to deal with that, the injuries he's come off of, as well as Olmark dealing with this injury here.
Yeah, it's disappointing. And now speaking of Olmark, now we don't really have they even given us a timetable on his return?
Not that I've seen, nothing firm. No.
Yeah, so that right there in itself is disappointing too, because you're really rolling the dice by because I know that they denied the reports that Olmark planned on testing the free agency, but I've never bought into taking a player at their word. And maybe this is a little bit of a blessing. I know it's a bad thing to say, because now that this injury bug just plagues Linus Olmark, maybe that gives Sabres Sabres have no leverage in free agency when it comes to Linus Olmark. They have none. Now they maybe get a little bit by saying, well, hey, we want to pay you, but can you stay healthy for an entire season? If we're going to pay you this kind of money, we need you to stay healthy. So maybe that's a little bit of leverage that Kevin Adams and Jason Carmanos get in negotiations with Linus. But I was very skeptical about them. I was almost on the side of trading Linus Olmark at the deadline, because you don't ever want to lose something valuable for nothing. And there's a realistic chance that you could lose Linus Olmark for nothing. And I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it doesn't. All signs are kind of pointing like he likes to be here, and he would like to be here long term. So we'll see what happens with that. The money's obviously got to be right. We got a comment here on Twitter. Can you tell me why Eichel wasn't put on long-term IR? He's been out since December. I think a big thing with that is when you have herniated discs and all that, obviously, the last thing you want to do, your last resort is surgery. So if you can free that up with physical therapy and acupuncture, chiropractor, inversion tables, like that type of thing. Naturally, obviously, that's what you want to do. You never want to go into the back/neck if you don't have to.
Yeah, and they announced today. Well, Kevin Adams announced today too that it won't require surgery, which is a relief. To do the rehab, you have to. Do whatever it takes, and we all know that Eichel is a grinder, and that once he's healthy and able to work out and get ready for the season, he's going to. I remember after last season, I think it was not even a week after the season ended, Eichel said, "Yeah, I'm already training for next year." Yeah. The guy is a beast. He's going to be ready for next year, and I know there's a lot of speculation surrounding him, but I just, I hope that outside of Olmark, obviously, is being a top priority. Yeah. Being a top priority is getting in a room with Jack Eichel and talking. Again, I know sounds like it's a vicious circle, Groundhog Day again, but getting in a room with Jack Eichel and especially Carmanos, and say, hey, this is the vision. This is what we want to do. Yep. We don't look this as a long-term rebuild. And this, we're looking at playoffs next season. This is our goal, and this is how we're going to get to that goal.
Yeah, and sort of set that out. Maybe see if there's some guys, names, Jack would like them to target, or maybe throw some ideas off him, and see what sticks and what doesn't, and sort of get on the same page as an entire unit from top to bottom. I like that, Dwayne, but we have to hop in here, get our predictions before puck drop. We're right at 7:00 here. Sabres plus 275 on the money line, Capitals minus 345, big favorites in this one. Over under set at 6. Sabres puck line is +2, minus 117 if you want that. The Dart took the Sabres money line today, plus 275. You'll love to see it, Dwayne. You think they can get this one done?
If they keep playing the way they have been, I mean, again, this looks like a different hockey team. And obviously you would rather have players like, back when the last time we played them, you would rather have Eichel in the lineup, but your hands are tied. You don't have him, and now you have no Taylor Hall. Not like that made much of a difference anyways to begin with. But this team is working hard for each other. They're not taking shifts off, and they're playing a full 60 minutes of hockey. Granted, they're going to have their struggles here and there from time to time, but they're not giving up on themselves, and that's the biggest thing. And they're playing very, very well in the third period, which, is something we haven't seen all season. So, I think the Sabres are in this. If I'm going to be the optimistic Sabres fan, which everybody knows I always am, I'm going to go with a 5-4 victory for the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, I mean they've lost 4 of their last 5 games to the Capitals, but the performance in that last game out, they lost 4-3. I think it ended up being a shootout or overtime, Dwayne.
Yeah, I think it was definitely in at least overtime. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we've seen them play much better against the Capitals lately. The key is going to be to stay out of the penalty box. They've taken the least penalties in the league. You're going to have to keep the Capitals off the power play. I believe they rank 3rd in the league. The Sabres have a good power play, but they don't have a great power play, a lethal power play the same way that the Capitals do. You're not going to want to give them any opportunities. It's Nick Backstrom's 1,000th game. He's going to want to pot 1 or 2, maybe even 3, but you gotta stay out of the box. I think they can get this one done. If they do, it's going to be something like a 3-2 game, and they're going to have to claw it out late. We only got 3 words left for you guys here from Crossing Swords. Let's go Buffalo.